Mother Knows Death, starring Nicole Angemi and Maria Q. Kane.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mother Knows Death. Happy St. Patrick's Day and happy birthday to our little baby Lillian, who is a teenager. It is so sad today. She's 13 years old.
Oh my God. I was looking back at pictures of the day she was born last night and I was getting so emotional.
Oh my God.
So sad.
It's so crazy. I started the Instagram right before, like while I was pregnant with her.
That's insane.
So it is insane. So a lot of people that have been following me this whole time have like really seen her grow up, which is nuts, right? So anyway, last night I was putting her to bed and I was just like, oh my God, this is like the last time I'm putting you to bed as a teen, like before you're officially a teenager. It's just kind of sad.
It really is. And then I had sent this picture to you and Gabe a couple weeks ago, but I showed Ricky last night. I was like, 13 years ago today, my mom sat on a trash bag waiting for her water to break so she didn't ruin the chair in the living room.
All right, so last night we had some breaking news, a case that we've been following for a couple years now. Kouri Richins, she is the children's author, you know, the one that wrote a book about child grief when they lose a parent. But
even though she killed her kid's dad?
Even though she killed the parent, yeah. So, shocker, she's been found guilty on all charges. So, we'll get into that. And then we also have a couple of updates on some stories we've been talking about on Mother Knows Death over the past couple of years, including an update with Laken Snelling. If you remember her, she was the cheerleader accused of killing her newborn baby. And then we have an update with the Tepe murders. They're the couple that were found dead in their house, and the husband was a dentist and the wife was married to some psycho who ended up being the one that killed them. So we'll talk about that update. And then we have a couple stories involving pregnancy, childbirth, and vaginas, including eating placenta, a freak accident, a horrific true crime story, and a TikTok trend that may wreck your vagina. All that and more on today's episode, including your questions, comments, and emails. So real quick, let's talk about Kouri Richins, because I actually think we could probably make a whole episode just dedicated to this case.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is definitely bonus episode worthy because just going through the details of this case are too long, but really interesting. So you don't want to skip over them at all. But I was very interested in watching this go down. Of course, it was aired on court TV, so you get to see all the juicy stuff like people's reactions and all the witnesses' reactions and all the experts they interviewed and everything. So that was really interesting. It's been going on the last couple weeks. I think it was only in court for just a little over a month between jury selection and the actual trial happening. But yesterday afternoon, I had checked, I feel like around 3 or 4 I had checked, and I don't even think they were done doing closing arguments yet. And then you texted me just a couple hours later and said she was found guilty, and I'm like, wow, they really must have made a compelling argument because the jury only deliberated for around 3 hours, which is nothing compared to some of these cases.
Yeah, well, I think any single person watching it was like, this lady is like batshit crazy out of her mind, and she's 100% guilty, so.
I mean, I'm really excited to do a deep dive on this because her defense team was absolute clown show. They were just making the most ridiculous accusations. The judge clearly hated these two women representing her. They just seemed like they had never been in a courtroom before. It honestly made me feel like I had a chance at defending myself if this is what a lawyer is going to do in court. So, I don't know. I thought it was so interesting, and just all the other information that came out. I mean, I don't see how they were possibly going to defend her at all, and they didn't. They didn't call any witnesses. When the prosecution rested, so did they.
Because they probably looked at her and were probably just like, listen, like, there's too much evidence. Like, there's no way that anybody's going to think that you're innocent here.
Oh, yeah. And of course, she tried to get a mistrial or something. I wouldn't be surprised if she tried to come forward later and said she had like ineffective counsel or something and tried to get the case thrown out. You are so guilty. It was unbelievable the amount of evidence they had on her.
All right, well, we'll talk about that more in the special bonus episode on that. And also, if you guys want to prep for that, we do have a high-profile death dissection that we wrote years ago on her in the gross room that talks all about her husband's cause and manner of death, and well, there was some discussion over that, whether it was an accidental overdose or intentional versus a homicide. So we go through all that in that post, and then we'll talk about it on the bonus episode. So let's talk about another high profile death that we've been covering in the gross room and on Mother Knows Death, Laken Snelling.
Okay, so when we were at CrimeCon, this was the trending story of that particular week back in September. So that was about the Kentucky cheerleader Laken Snelling, who her child that she gave birth to in her bedroom was found in a trash bag by her roommates. So as of last week, a grand jury voted to indict her on manslaughter charges connected to the death of the newborn, and she was rearrested but then later released on bail.
So the reason that these charges are just coming up now is because the autopsy results were finally released. I'm not exactly sure what took this long to figure it out, but they did say that the child was born alive. So that was one of the questions we had when this happened, because you can give birth and have a stillbirth. So technically she could be charged with abuse of a corpse for putting the baby in a trash bag, but technically she didn't murder the baby, so that her charges would be far less than what they actually were. But we didn't know exactly what happened until recently, where the medical examiner said this baby was definitely born alive, breathed air, and then was asphyxiated, but they didn't go beyond saying how that happened. They didn't know. They said by undetermined means. So this is my personal opinion on it. Like, because she did admit when she got arrested that she had given birth to the baby, and she said that she felt dizzy and lightheaded and laid down, and when she woke up on top of the baby was blue. So we do know that she has said that to police, and she could have now this story could be total bullshit too, but she could have given birth, put the baby in a bag, and stuck the baby in the closet, and the baby would have died of asphyxia that way, right? But I mean, I'm pretty sure that her defense is going to use this. If they would be smart if they used this, which was she gave birth and she was in complete shock, and she passed out because of blood loss, and she fainted and she felt weak because of how vigorous it is to give birth. And she accidentally fell on the baby, which caused the baby to asphyxiate. And that's what they're going to try to go with. And I hope when they call the expert witnesses, they could go back and forth as to like why that is possible or why that's not possible. But since the medical examiner didn't actually can't say, oh, this baby was strangled, this baby was smothered, they can't say that. They don't have scientific proof of that. I feel like it's going to be a loophole for the defense.
Yeah, that is an interesting point you made. And they also revealed that they had a warrant for Snapchat. So apparently her and the roommates communicated through a group chat on Snapchat. I don't know why they just weren't texting like normal people, but whatever. So
I don't think kids these days, I just based upon hearing my children and hearing older teenage kids, it doesn't seem like anybody, like my kids will, I'm anti-social media. So they'll come up to me and say, can I get this app so I could text pictures to my friends? And I'm like, well, why don't you just text pictures to your friends? Oh, well, this app's different. No.
Oh my God. How stupid is that? And so
it is.
I guess with the Snapchat warrant now, they're able to build kind of a better timeline, because they're saying that around 4 a.m. the day she gave birth, the roommates reported to each other that they heard really loud noises coming from her bedroom, to the point where a picture fell off the wall. And all I imagine is these dumb Gen Zers doing like peace sign kissy face, being like, do you hear that noise? Like, it's like so fucking stupid. But then anyway, they have this communication around 4 o'clock in the morning. And then she finally replies around 9 a.m. and said that the noise was because she passed out and she hadn't been feeling well. As we know, she gave birth, cleaned up the whole scene, put everything in a trash bag in her closet, left, went to a McDonald's, and then went to a clinic on her campus. And then the roommates were suspicious because of how insane the noises were in the middle of the night. They went and investigated, and that's when the baby was found.
I can't wait to watch this trial. I just want to hear, like, all we're hearing in the article is insane noises. And like when these people get interviewed on the stand, I just really am curious as to, like, I've never actually watched someone give birth. I'm about to do it with you, which I'm excited that it's not going to be me. But like just thinking about trying to give birth to a baby with no drugs or anything and no support system there, quiet. I just don't even I can't you can't even do it quiet when you have all the stuff there. It's just like I I can't even imagine like what that sounded like. And this is kind of similar to the Idaho case, right? Like when you hear these college students are all living in this house and they're hearing something so unusual happen and they don't like further investigate it. It's just
Like she had
it's
to be
weird.
screaming to some
But
extent.
even
and-
if she was just like she had to be making weird like crazy grunting. I don't know that she'd be screaming, but like you would hear signs of something not right. And just let's pretend she wasn't giving birth. Was she getting raped up there? Like what was happening to cause that noise? People just don't make those noises, right?
Well, yeah, and they're saying it was so aggressive that a picture fell off the wall. So you have to imagine she's banging against the wall. I mean, I can't really speak to this yet because I'm still a couple months out on experiencing this myself. But you've given birth 3 times, so you know how intense it is.
I just can't wrap my head around it. I just can't. So like I really want the prosecution to ask them like what exactly did you think those noises were from? What function or what activity would a human be doing to make those noises? Like why
I just
didn't you
think
further
these kids
investigate
are
it?
just idiots.
Yeah, they're just checked out, I guess. I don't know. So we'll keep you guys updated on that because we're going to be I mean, we'll have our eye on the trial. I don't even know. They don't even have it listed like any time when that's supposed to be happening, but it is really interesting.
Well, I imagine it's gonna probably be next year or the year after. Like I would say, when you said earlier, you don't know why it took so long. What probably took so long was getting the grand jury and getting the formal indictment just through the legal system. I mean, they're backed up, and in general, those things just take a long time.
Yeah, but since September, it seems like a long time. Maybe because she's not really like considered to be a threat to the public. All right, so what's your prediction? I think that she's going to get off. I think that they'll be like, "Oh, this and that and you've already served your time or whatever." She's not even serving time though, right? She's like on house arrest or something.
She's on house. Yeah, I agree with you. I could see her getting off.
Yeah,
Just because there's too much reason. There, unless I can see her getting charged with the abuse of a corpse, but not for actually killing the baby.
when this is similar to Karen Reed, right? Like when you have an autopsy that has an undetermined manner of death, which is why it's used so sparingly because it's not good for prosecution cases. Because if the medical examiner can't say if that baby accidentally died or was killed intentionally, then like how are they going all they're going to do is just be like, you know, you didn't do the right thing after you gave birth and that's why the baby's dead, which is possible, but at the same time it's just like they did an autopsy. I'm sure they didn't see anything else that could have caused the baby to stop breathing after birth, like a cardiac defect or like a hole in the heart, something like that they would have seen. So they said it's asphyxia, like they could tell that there was some kind of a lack of oxygen that caused this baby to die.
I just feel like they might be able to get her on circumstantial evidence because it's not like she was in my position now, right? Where like I knew I was pregnant, everybody knew I was pregnant, and something like this happened, something went wrong, right? And that was the excuse I had. Like people suspected she was pregnant, and now upon reflection, you could look back at pictures of her and this weird photo shoot she had with her boyfriend and everything and be like, yeah, she clearly was pregnant, but like she wasn't telling people she was.
No.
She was concealing it.
But yeah, and they'll come out with everything when they go through her phone and this and that, and they'll see like what she was Google searching and I feel like they've already released some things that she was Google searching, but just still like I just these particular cases you really never see women getting punished for it. So we'll see what happens.
No, because to me, it doesn't seem like these other cases we cover where, like, a woman genuinely had no idea she was pregnant, which I just can't believe, and then thinks she's about to take the worst poop of her life, and then all of a sudden a baby comes out, right? Like, it seems a little more involved than that. So I guess we'll just have to see what happens over the next couple months.
Okay, Tepe murders. So the house that they were killed in just fairly recently
In
is for sa-
December.
yes, is for sale? Like what?
Okay, something else I wanted to talk about. So, like, because this is the category of nosy I'm in, I'm like, I have to see the Zillow listing, right? So I immediately find this listing. They bought this house in 2020 for $487,000 and it's listed for $775,000. I would say in a normal circumstance, this price increase makes sense. So then I was like, this seems really high, especially like no offense to our Ohio listeners, but for Ohio. So like I had to see
People would say that about New Jersey too.
and I wouldn't care because I agree with them.
I disagree. I think our state gets a bad rep, and I think that we are. People could talk shit all you want, but we're an hour from New York. We're 2 hours from Washington D.C. We're 5 minutes from Philadelphia. We're an hour to the shore. Like we live in like a very good, and like an hour from the mountains too. Like where we live is ideal. Ohio, on the other hand, but like I just don't trust people that don't live near an ocean. It's just weird. So
I have that weird feeling too. Like I get very
I
uncomfortable
feel trapped.
being landlocked. Anyway, so I was like, I have to see what the comps in this neighborhood are because this house seems very high. So from what I've seen, their house is one of the most expensive ones for sale in that neighborhood. Most of them have been selling for around $600,000 or under. There was one that was above $800,000, but theirs is listed for $775,000. I think considering a brutal double homicide just occurred on this property, they could maybe lower the price a little bit.
No, I think that's why it's high.
Who wants to live in a house where something
people
horrific like this
do.
happened?
Listen, I have a couple examples to bring up for you actually that I looked up because I know. So the first thing that I wanted to mention is we've had this recently in the news within the past couple of years because the house that the Idaho students were murdered at, if you recall, they demolished it before the trial was even supposed to start happening, which I thought
stupid.
was stupid and it was so weird. And like this is again the same as that case. Like they're getting rid of the house and the evidence of everything and selling it and having other people move in before the trial. Now, I guess that's like common for regular cases that are not high profile cases of people getting murdered. Like you couldn't just preserve the houses that people were murdered in forever until their case went through the court system. It just like wouldn't be practical.
Yeah, I wonder if a listener will know the answer to this. Like what happens because obviously nobody's paying the mortgage, so the house goes into foreclosure, but does the mortgage company have to legally not put the house into foreclosure?
That's not true that no one's paying for the mortgage.
Well, I'm just saying, let's say in a typical case where this happens and the bills aren't getting paid, you can't just let a house sit there. But like, does the mortgage company have to legally not put it in foreclosure because it's part of an active crime scene investigation? Or how does that work exactly?
I think that the chance of that happening is slim to none.
Aren't all your neighbors realtors? Like, can't you ask them?
I don't even think it's worth asking. Every single person's got, like, for the majority of people in the world, they have next of kin that will take over the house. They're going to take over the bills or take over the house or something. Like
they're going to pay thousands of dollars a month on an empty house.
Yeah, because they're going to get money for it when they sell it. Why would you let that house was owned by a dentist? Why would you let that go into foreclosure? It's worth money.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe
and
that's why
and
it's
there's
going...
children behind that need that money.
Yeah, but the kids can't live in the house by themselves. They're little kids, and like maybe that's why the house is going up for sale after 3 months, because maybe the rest of their family can't afford to pay the mortgage in the meantime.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly fine. I just think that there's always going to be somebody that can take over it. There, so, and the thing is too, like, let's say for example, I die right now, right? You have to take over my house. Like, the bill isn't just it's going to go to my next of kin. You know how like certain things like student loans you don't have to pay back? Like if I die, you don't have to pay student loans or something like that, right? But like if I die, like somebody has to pay my credit cards, and you're my legal next of kin that's of age, so it would all go to you.
No, and I understand that, but I'm saying like after like a little bit, I could not afford the lifestyle you are living at present. So like you have to consider that. I'm talking more about, let's say that people don't have next of kin to take over this house, but the police don't want it being sold. They don't want anybody else in there so they could keep going in up until trial. Is that a thing?
I don't know that. I'm not really sure, and I don't even know that they do that often. Like, I know they did with. Well, we could talk about the Murdaugh house because they did go back to that house. They had the jury like go there and actually walk on the scene and see what it was like. But and I just don't. And they did that. Didn't they do that with O.J. Simpson too?
Yeah, they did it with OJ.
But they went to O.J. Simpson's house, right? They didn't go to the murder scene. They might have. I'm not sure. But regardless, like they're not. I'm just trying to think of like local murders that happen around here. It's just like they close the scene up pretty fast. It's just like these are high profile ones. So
yeah, I'm just asking if that's a thing. But I also think something to take into consideration is that I wrote about this a couple years ago, and I think one of our external exam guests we had on, Alina Burrows, had done this for her job, where she did like virtual reality scans of a crime scene so that in court they could virtually walk through the property and get the perspective.
Yeah.
But of course, that's a helpful tool, but it's not the same as being there in real life.
It's not. And think about even with the Idaho murders, it's like we heard about it for so many years, and then the pictures just came out this summer, right? And it's like a whole different perspective when you actually could see all of the pictures of like where the door was in relation to the stairs instead of looking at a drawing of it, right? And they make 3D models and everything, but a lot of crime scene investigators would say, like Cheryl McCollum just says that it's a terrible idea, right? Because especially a case like that with someone that's like truly heinous and psychotic, like you want to make sure that that person gets behind bars and you don't want to get off because of something stupid like that, right? But at the same time, you could understand that Ohio would want to get rid of it because every single time people drive by it, it's traumatic to look at it. I mean, so some other houses. So this is another interesting thing. So we were talking about this probably on the show when the John Benet Ramsey house went for sale. Remember that?
Yeah.
And that was back. So they had bought it in 1991 for $500,000, and then now
Wow.
it's been on and off the market. So I'm not sure if like people just aren't interested. But at this point, they're saying that it's worth $4.2 million, if not more. And remember, they had the pictures on Realtor.com at some point, and we looked at it, and it was like the basement's like completely redone, like everything looks different. But just to think that a child was murdered and sexually assaulted there, I just don't know how, even if it's the nicest looking house, it's just such bad. Like, you have to think, like, if that house was 7,200 square feet, right? That's a huge house.
Yeah.
You have children if you're living there, probably. Like, usually a couple isn't buying a house that's that size. Like, why would you want to raise a family in a house where something like that happened ever?
That's how I kind of feel, because I guess we got in this conversation about Gene Hackman before and his house being for sale. Like, you're dumb to think that a house you're living in that other people have lived in before, that you have to assume somebody has died at some point in time, especially for us that have older houses, right? But like, when you know that something so horrific happened in the house, like John Benet Ramsey, like this case, I don't understand how you could do it. Think about John Wayne Gacy, for example. Like, they knocked down his house because of how horrific those crimes were, but then somebody just built a brand new one right on top of it, and I feel like that whole property is cursed.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And the Gene Hackman one's a little bit of a different scenario for me because like that house, his house and his property and land was like so awesome. I just like it was really beautiful.
Well,
but like
and they died from like not like getting brutally murdered.
the hesitation I had with Gene Hackman's house is like a woman died in that house from a viral infection that she got living in that house.
Yeah.
Like no thanks. I'm sorry. Like maybe you're young and healthy and that's not going to happen to you, but just like, that to me is just like, I would stay away from that. That's the only reason I would stay away from that one. But another one was Chris Watts house.
Yeah.
Where he killed his 2 children and their mother. Well, I think he killed the mother at the house and then he killed the kids maybe
Like
at the
putting
scene.
them in an oil tank.
Yes, but that house sold, and too, like that was back on that was on the market for $700,000. The Murdaugh house was on the market for $3 million almost. Menendez brothers house, that one's insane, just under 20 million.
Wow.
That house is ridiculous too, but it's also very interesting. Same Nicole Brown Simpson, one of the Charles Manson houses. They're all houses that are almost $1 million or multiple $1 million. It's just really interesting.
I just think, like, let's say, for example, the Menendez brothers house. Like, so obviously somebody buying this house is incredibly wealthy to be able to afford a $20 million home. But you're telling me even if the whole house gets gutted and redone, you're just going to walk in the living room and then be like, oh, 30 years ago, two people had basically their heads blasted off by their children in this very space. I just think it's really bad energy. But I
Yeah.
guess some people either just really don't care or they're into it.
Like the only reason I could see someone wanting to do it is there's like a bunch of like death tours in LA, especially because there's so many places to go to. If one of those tours wanted to buy one of these houses and be like, let's walk through this actual house where the Menendez brothers killed their parents, like that would totally make sense to me. I just otherwise, no.
I really don't get it all. When I found out about the autoerotic asphyxiation incident in my attic, I didn't feel comfortable about it, but I can't really do anything about it now. But still, that wasn't like somebody getting brutally murdered. That was technically an accidental death, so is what it is.
It's also just better, like, it's better if you don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know for certain that no one was murdered here, but I don't want to know.
Well, you don't have a neighbor that just loves telling you all the weird things that happened in your house. So that's what happens over here. But yeah, I mean, I think this house is priced high in general, but like I'm curious if it's going to sell for that price. I would think they'd have to go a little lower.
So that's interesting too, because Gene Hackman's house was priced, I think it was priced at $4 million or something like that, which they actually mentioned in the article was way below the market value. But considering the circumstances, because normally if you're selling a celebrity home like that, not only would it be market value, but it would be above because it'd be like, oh, Gene Hackman lived here.
But considering the potential hantavirus that's in the house will lower it for you.
Yeah, and also just like the whole decomp body thing, like I know what that looks like. I mean, you would really have to do some work to clean out that whole vibe. I just would want to walk through it and be like, do I get a hint of a smell anywhere?
And obviously this house, we know that a crime just occurred in this house on December 30th. But like, I think they have to disclose if a homicide or a crime happened. They don't.
Not in Ohio. In that particular article that I just read about this, it says that they don't have to disclose it. And that might be specific to Ohio.
I don't agree with that. I feel like because of the nature of that crime, they should have to disclose that.
No, it's just like we were saying. Like, if we don't know, you don't know.
You don't know. They will know, though, because it's like if you just Google the address, it comes up in all these articles about the homicides.
Yeah, for that particular murder. But what about, like, there was probably 5 people killed in Philadelphia yesterday. Like, what about their houses?
I know.
You know what I mean? Like,
I'm just saying. Like, I think it's weird.
Let's get on to this Winnie Cooper story.
Danica McKellar of the Wonder Years fame, she's revealing that after giving birth to her son 15 years ago, she was offered to taste her placenta and she loved it.
Oh my God. Listen, like, I just want to put this out there in general. If any celebrity says to do something with your health, just like it's a good idea to just not do it.
I'm assuming because she's saying she was in the hospital and the doula offered it to her, she just ate it raw, like right then and there.
I don't know. She said that it tasted like a filet mignon. Like
the best she's ever had. This is a Luke Waltieri proclamation.
Listen, when you cut it, it looks like steak, except it's not as.
But you said it's like ground beef texture.
It's more like, it's just more like you could pull it apart easier. It's just it's like a meatloaf slice, like, but softer. That's after it's fixed too. When But when it's fresh, it looks like steak. It's just very fleshy and red and very, very vascular and bloody when you cut it fresh. I can't imagine doing that. I could more imagine doing cutting it and cooking it and eating it. I just don't really understand why people keep trying to push this. Like, they've been studying this forever to see if it actually does anything, and it just doesn't in humans. And other mammals eat their placenta, like cats, lions, mammals, right? You'll see them do that after they give birth, but they think that that's done because of like an evolutionary thing, that they're cleaning up the scene of blood and tissue because predators can smell that and will come and try to kill their baby and eat their baby. So they want to kind of clean up the evidence of it, so to speak. And that's like an evolutionary thing with animals. A lot of people who do this placental encapsulation and eating their placenta, they say that it makes their milk come in better and it reduces postpartum depression and this, that, and the other, which is fine. Like, if you want to do it, it's not going to hurt you. But like, they've tried to study that because that would actually be the best case scenario, that we could take women's placentas and make pills for them to make so they don't have to go on SSRIs after giving birth or something, right? It would be the best. It doesn't work.
Or
Or what? Big pharmacy
or
saying
big pharma is
Well,
making
I
all
guess-
this money off of SSRIs.
Yeah, and I guess that's completely a possibility too. I just don't even think though, because when you're taking a placenta and you're freeze drying it or whatever you're doing and encapsulating it, I feel like if there were any nutrients in it, you're just like denaturing it anyway. I don't know. I know I'm going to get a bunch of shit for this because people think it's like the best thing in the world. I'm just kind of, anytime like a celebrity's like, oh, do this sperm whale semen facial and all this shit, you're just like, you guys are so bored. Like, just.
But they'll be like, oh, like, eat clean. And we'll have another story later on that's like all about like how something that we think is natural can actually be harmful to us, right? But like, they'll be like preaching, oh, do this because it's more natural and it's clean and whatever. But then they'll go get Botox. So it's like, what are you doing?
There was actually, speaking of the Oscars, there was we were talking about the Oscars before we started recording. We haven't said anything on it yet, right, on the show. But regardless, the Oscars happened this weekend, and there's this photo going viral of the what's it called? The theater that they were sitting in is like trashed. There's like trash all over the ground, water bottles, all of their junk.
Of course.
And it's just like, oh, this is the crowd that's always saying, to treat the environment good. And they do all this stuff at their house and drive these cars and this and that because they care about the environment. And meanwhile, they just like left a bunch of trash on the ground for the workers to clean up,
Well, exactly. Are we
That
surprised
just
this
like
is the attitude they have?
It sums them up 100%. It's kind of amazing.
Of course it is. It's just annoying. This episode is brought to you by The Gross Room.
Guys, so this week's high-profile death dissection in the gross room is on baby Leon. I don't know if you've ever heard about him, but it's a surrogacy scandal. It's kind of a juicy story. Do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, this family, or like this couple, I should say, hired this surrogate, and while it seemed to be going well at first, the surrogate started having issues beyond her control at about 26 weeks pregnant. Things went south, the baby did not survive, and then what happens afterwards is really going to shock you. Just complete harassment, potential bankruptcy, a murder accusation. You just can't believe where the story goes. It truly is so insane, it seems completely made up, but it's checking out.
And I'm wondering, after writing that, like seeing like how many women that this may be potentially, because it brings up questions about surrogacy. And obviously, like, I have a friend that used a surrogate because she has an underlying cardiac problem. Like, it's totally necessary. But then in this particular case, it doesn't really seem like this woman needed a surrogate per se, and she used two different surrogates to have two different children, and kind of both of their lives ended up being kind of ruined because of it.
Oh, yeah, in different ways.
So you have to wonder if that is happening more often, and it talks a little bit about these agencies that have the surrogates and how they're treating people. one thing that I didn't even consider after you wrote that up was about the health insurance part of it and like who's actually paying for these bills and things like that. So it's a
Yeah.
really good article.
And I thought that the price the surrogate got paid was pretty low considering she's growing somebody else's baby.
And it was fairly recent, so it's not like, oh, it was 20 years ago.
No, it was within the last couple of years.
Yeah. So I mean, and that really sucks because I think most people would say that that's really not that much money. Like it wouldn't even pay for a new car.
Not
I mean,
in today's money.
Not in today's
Definitely
money.
not.
Yeah. So it's just like I always say, like if I was going to do something like that, it needs to be like, oh, I'm paying off your student loans or I'm paying off your mortgage, like a big chunk of something, right? So check that out in the gross room, all that and more.
Head over to thegrossroom.com now to sign up.
Okay. So now we have some stories talking about women's health in all sorts of different ways. This one was involving an accident with a pregnant person.
Yeah, fun stories to hear as a pregnant person currently. So first we have in England, a 34-week pregnant woman was using a pedestrian crosswalk when an e-bike came out of nowhere, hit her, and now she's worried about her baby after she had to give birth 6 weeks early.
Speaking of our great state of New Jersey, it's like a major issue right now in New Jersey, the whole e-bike situation, because people can buy kits and modify them to make them go really fast, like motorcycle speed or like moped speed, just like something that needs to be regulated.
I find in our immediate area, I'm not having an issue with this. We are having that issue you've recently discussed about the jazzy chair situation, though. In the middle of a major road, people just going on motorized wheelchairs, just like going at full speed in the middle of a street that the speed limit is like 50 miles an hour.
Well, the e-bikes they're a situation around here, and they're more popular in cities, obviously. When I went to New York City recently and parked on the street when I was with Gabe for that event, I got out of the car and we were parked right next to one of those bike lanes, and I just looked over to just across the street, and that bike, there was just like so many of them. You really have to watch because they come so fast. It's not like a bicycle that you could kind of predict the speed of how long it's going to take the person to get to you. I mean, they're supposed to go 15 to 20 miles an hour-ish, but you could modify them to go 40, 50 miles an hour. And when they're modified like that, they're illegal, first of all, and because when you get a moped, you need a special driver's license and registration and everything to do that. So there's a difference.
That's what I was going to ask, if there was an age limit, because in this particular case, this was a 13-year-old boy riding on this.
Well,
hit this woman.
Yeah, and we have kids riding on them all the time. We've had a couple cases in New Jersey that have been a higher profile because people have died because of it. And the biggest injuries they're seeing are head injuries from the actual rider. But there has been, because there's been such a jump in e-bikes since the pandemic. There's been such a huge jump that now they're starting to see pedestrian injuries, which is what you would consider this to be. I actually know somebody that died that was hit by a motorcycle crossing the street. She was pregnant too, and she died because she got hit. So that's exactly what happened in this case. I mean, when you're walking on the street and you're a pedestrian, even if a bicycle is going fast and hits you, it could really do damage. And this one was going very fast. It knocked her over. She fell on her belly, and she immediately thought that something was wrong. She kept shaking her belly and saying that she couldn't feel the baby moving, and she was freaking out. And when she got into the ambulance, they were like, we need to bring you in and do an emergency C-section right away. And they did, and luckily everything worked out for her.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I mean, I don't know how to feel about this, but like the teenager hit her, right? And then left the scene. And then the police had to go later find him and arrest him. Like, I understand you're young and you're probably scared and you don't know what happened, but like you can't just leave if something like that happens. Because it doesn't seem like you just like clipped her and thought it was innocent and kept going. The way it is described, it was a full-on collision.
Yeah, I mean, I just am wondering, like in New York, for example, these bikes are actually going faster than cars could go because they're able to weave in and out of places cars can't go. When are they supposed to abide by the traffic lights like the same exact way that cars do? I'm pretty sure that bicycles are supposed to too, but people really don't, you know?
Well,
Because
especially
it
in
is scary.
Philly.
Yeah.
People in Philly go the opposite way the cars are driving. They don't stop at stop signs. They don't stop at lights.
Well, Philly's like, I feel like New York is very good about being bicycle friendly, whereas
Yeah.
like Philly's not. I actually remember a year or two ago, we had a doctor from Children's Hospital. Remember, she got killed by somebody.
Yeah.
Were they riding a bike or an
I'm
e-bike
pretty
or
sure she
something?
was riding a bike
Or
and
she
got
was
hit by
riding
a
a bike.
car. But I will say, like, Philly's getting better. I don't know if you've been in Old City recently, but I just was there a couple weeks ago, and like they have ripped up all of Market Street and put in a bike lane on the side, which is good because it sucks if you're riding a bike around in the city that there's nowhere for you to go, and it sucks as a driver when there's nowhere for them to
I
go.
think all of that happened though because of that CHOP doctor, because I think that I don't know if it was her friends or family or doing something to try to make it safer for bike riders, because it really is there. It's just not, I feel like in New York it's accessible for them on a lot of streets, and in Philly it's just like, oh, you can go up 13th Street and like, but what if you're not going to be anywhere near there?
I don't think they care about people's safety. I think because the World Cup's about to be here, they're about to have the 250-year anniversary of Independence Day, and the All-Star baseball game is going to be here. They're cleaning up to make the city look nice. They did this when the DNC was here. They like all of a sudden 6 months before, a lot of areas got really nice and went under construction, and then they all went downhill again, and now that we're hosting these 3 major events, they're doing it all over again.
Yeah, they need to, because I was just downtown a few weeks ago and was just like, yeah, this is not looking good around here. So,
No.
all right, let's talk about God. This story is really horrific.
Okay, so then in Alabama, a woman had just given birth, and her husband decided that while they were still in the hospital, that was the best time to shoot her and then himself.
Like in the hospital.
Yes, after she just gave birth.
It sucks because from a hospital perspective, if the father is showing up, and I don't know how they could potentially prevent this. I mean, the major city hospitals where we live have metal detectors and stuff, but I don't, the smaller ones don't. I know, I've worked in them. So I don't know if you're having people that are visiting, how you could really, I mean, technically, maybe they could do like a list and say, these are people that are permitted to visit me.
I was just going to ask that because a couple times I've had to visit people in the hospital. Sometimes they don't even ask my name. They're just like, here's a visitor badge. This is the room so-and-so's in, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely, because I've been working in the hospital during the transition of this, and they've definitely, like, when I first started working at the hospital, it was just like, I used to bring my friends in all the time. We, like, eat lunch together. Nobody batted an eye. And then now it's like, oh, you got to go through this metal detector, and they have to get, like, a sticker with their, you know, their picture on it, show their ID at the desk and all that stuff. But he could have done all that.
I mean, when you used to work in the city, I would literally go get us bubble tea and like lunch and walk right through the emergency room and go right on the elevator and go right up to your lab. Like not one person
Oh yeah,
stopped
all the
me.
time.
15, 16 years old. No, that one person stopped me and was like, why are you going into an employees only area of the hospital?
Well, I mean, we had patients wandering up there all the time. Like, because when you go on that elevator that you're talking about, it literally brought you right outside of the gross room. And like we had patients like wandering in the lab with like organs on cutting boards and stuff. It was outrageous. But things are definitely changing, because that now the security has to stop them and say where you're going and points them to the right way and everything like that, I suppose. But like I don't know. I feel like the list would be a start to just, especially for, because you have to imagine that with the mother baby units, especially, that there could be some domestic drama happening with people.
Well, yeah, and it's like, well, very important to note the baby was left unharmed, but like how terrifying is that for hospital staff and the other women delivering or having just given birth in this wing of the hospital? I'm sure everybody heard what happened, obviously. They said she was shot multiple times and then the husband shot himself.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because I did read in the article that they were having some kind of domestic dispute about something, and there was something about him coming to the hospital or his family coming to the hospital, like.
Well,
And
some reports said they were having established marital issues, like they're saying, and some are saying that she didn't even want him there at all. So I wonder if you can be like, I'm open to visitors, but definitely not this person.
yeah, and also, like, I feel like in general, aside from that, like, you're getting ready to give birth, right? Like, you should just be like, I only want these people here, because you're like, you just don't feel good. You just gave birth. You just, like, want to be alone with your baby. Like, you don't need randos coming and showing up to visit you. Like, just be like, I only want these 4 people to come see me. That should be like
That should be what it
a
is.
thing.
Like, and I'm with you because I'm about to be there. Like, I'm more than okay having certain people there, but I don't just want like some rando peripherals showing up that I'm like, I'm okay if you meet the baby in the first couple days, but like, give me a second to get adjusted, right?
Yeah,
But
it is.
you always
It's a very,
have like
it's like a very interesting thing.
you always have some rando family member showing up that you're like, why are you
Plus
even
that
here?
stupid list you were reading to me, like, do you want the cord clamped or do you want it cut immediately? Like, all this stuff. It's just like they ask you every other specific thing, but they're not like, oh, what randos do you not want showing up at?
Well, I don't know if they do actually. Maybe I could ask my midwife team when I'm there next week what their protocol is because I am curious. I mean, the birth plan I was reading to you came with a pregnancy journal that I bought. That is not something the office provided me. So, but I've been seeing online how ridiculous people are getting, like putting string lights up and all this
Oh my
crazy shit.
God.
It's like just your goal should be to have a healthy baby and for you to be healthy after you deliver. Everything else, try to be as relaxed as you can. I think I might watch Pawn Stars or something that shows very relaxing to me. But like, we gotta chill. We can't just show up to the hospital with like 50 suitcases of shit.
All right, so this lady, so the saddest part of this whole entire story in the article is that they show a picture of the mom with her like newborn baby laying on her face. And it's just so sad because you're just like, when you're in that moment, I mean, like, I really want to know what the hell happened. Like, what happened that caused that?
I don't know. And his family was saying they were very surprised about how violent he was and how it would go this way. But obviously, like, they can just say that even if he had
He's
patterns.
very
but-
young. He was 19 and she was 24.
Yeah.
And which makes you think, like, was he a minor when they got together? I mean, it's possible if he's only 19 years old and they're already married and having a baby 9 months later, like, that's kind of unusual. But he was enlisted in the National Reserve or something like that. I just don't know. And his family seems shocked about it. It's just like, what could cause a person to do that? And like,
Yeah.
looking at maybe he thought it wasn't his baby or something. Like,
He might
is
have
that
grown.
a possibility? Like,
I mean, there's a possibility he grew up in a violent household with between his family members. He could have had a mental condition going on we weren't privy to. We
Yeah.
just don't really know.
I know. It's just like, so think about that baby. Like, I'm sure someone in the family will take over raising the baby, but just like, you want that in the shadow of your life, that both of your parents are dead and your dad like literally killed your mother as soon as you came out of her body. It's just like so messed up.
No, it's horrible. All right, our last story for today involves a new TikTok trend, which we all know is terrible no matter what it is. And I don't think this is like new information per se, but they're saying that using coconut oil in your vagina may not only wreck it, but may make condoms less effective, risking pregnancy and also STDs.
So when I first heard this story, I was kind of shocked about it because I specifically recall my doctor telling me that I could use that. She was just like, oh, maybe you want to try this. And I was like, okay. And I remember going home and saying, you know what? Like, I don't think that I would ever use that because I have like when I eat walnuts, my throat gets itchy. Like I have fruits and vegetables make my throat itchy, and I'm like, I don't need to put anything down there that might give me like an itchy veg. Like I didn't want to use it,
Yeah.
right? But so that's why it stuck in my head, like I remembered it. So one of our listeners named Danielle, who we're going to be seeing at our event that is in Horsham, PA in a couple of weeks, she she said that her doctor had just told her to use it, and she's shocked that this is the thing. And she also said that she keeps having like recurrent UTIs and stuff, and then she's like, oh my god, is this actually making it worse for me? So I looked into a little bit, and apparently it's not specific to coconut oil, but they say that silicone based lubricants are and water-based ones are the best ones that have been tested medically. And this one, like a coconut oil one, can, because it's oil-based, like they're saying oil-based lubes are the ones that cause more issues with women. So they're saying like it's not specific to coconut, but just oil-based lubes in general. But they're saying like because the coconut oil is an oil and it's thick, so it's able to, if you have bacteria, especially around your urethra after you have sex and stuff, like it's not going to clean off easily. And it could be adherent there, and it could actually clog it on there, which is why, when you get like tattooed or you get your ears pierced, for example, they tell you not to use like A&D ointment or Neosporin, because the thick ointment sometimes can trap bacteria. It's not good.
But don't they advise you use Aquaphor? Because that's what I always use after.
What, after getting your ears pierced or something?
No, like after I get tattooed.
Well, I don't know exactly why. I don't know what the actual advice from a dermatologist is to do after you get a tattoo like that, to be honest with you. And maybe it has, I'm not exactly sure if it's petroleum based or something like that. Like I'm not sure what the composition is, but with the coconut oil, for example, I think that like maybe my doctor offered it to me and told me to do it because she was just like, you're married for X amount of years and like you're not using condoms and stuff like that. And, whereas with younger women, it would be really a bad idea, or just like not younger women, but single women that want to use it, that are using condoms and stuff, because it could break down the condom. And also those dental dam things that I don't really know anybody that actually uses them, but for oral sex. So
I don't think anybody's using those things.
I don't either. I've never heard of a real life example of it, but it could break it down, and then it will increase your risk of getting like a serious like sexually transmitted infection.
I feel also like I feel like when I was just at pelvic floor therapy, I noticed that was what they use there too, coconut oil.
Really?
Yeah, and like I don't know. Like I feel like I've been hearing this forever, so I am surprised that there's backlash about it.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, if you just want to be very specific, like, okay, coconut oil-based bad, okay. I just think it's very specific to like what's going on in your life.
So this is what I was referring to earlier, because in this article they say they really are trying to emphasize that just because something is natural, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the safest option.
So when you get the pelvic floor therapy, like when you go home after, is it like greasy?
Well, I don't always have internal work done. I had more of that done around after my surgery. But like not necessarily. Like it's not like she's like using a ton of it. It's just a little bit, and then they have the wipes for you to use after. So
I don't think it's that big of a deal. I don't know.
yeah, I don't
I mean,
know.
like, you have to take into if you're using condoms and it's known that breaks down condoms, like that's serious.
Well, that should be taken into
I wouldn't use the
consideration, of
words like
course.
wreck your badge. I think that's like a little, I don't know.
This isn't like, when I hear TikTok trend, I'm thinking of like some dumb brand new thing somebody's telling everybody to do. Like this has been being used for years and years and years.
Yeah, there's probably like a long history, like hundreds of years of things like this being used.
Yeah, so I think the wording of this is kind of dumb. I agree. Like, if you're a person using condoms, you should definitely take this into consideration. But I don't know. I was surprised by it, honestly. Okay, on to your questions and emails. If you have a question or a story for us, please submit it to stories@motherknowsdeath.com. Our first one is from Courtney. I'm listening to this week's show, and you had a story about a teacher having sex with a teenager. Thought I would share my story with you. I met my ex-boyfriend when he was a student teacher in my high school technical prep classes. He was going for an associate's degree in culinary and used his last semester to study under a teacher so he could eventually take over his teaching position. I was 18, he was 20, so technically it was legal, but to this day I am so disgusted with myself and ashamed no one stepped in to stop what was happening. My classmates knew it was occurring, and I was actually his second victim, as he had hooked up with another student before me. While we were dating, he had hooked up with yet another student, and then years later eventually married a fourth person that was in that class. Once the school found out, we had kept it quiet, but it had come out by the end of the year. His only consequence that he was dismissed from our class and was not allowed to visit us on school grounds. He was still able to see me and other classmates in town. I had lied to my parents about how I met him so he didn't get in trouble, so they can't be blamed for letting it happen, but I blame every other adult that knew and didn't do a thing. It's seriously absolutely disgusting to me. This happened in 2014, and I hope that in today's age he would have been charged or something, especially because the school knew and ignored it, not to bring any scandal to the school. Please don't judge my immature teenage self too much. Thank you for all you do, bring awareness and sometimes laugh to everyone's day. I love listening every week. Thank you.
Thank you. I wouldn't feel bad about this at all. Like, you're 18 and there's like a guy that's, I mean, I don't know. I feel like when you're 18, it's just kind of like that's legal, right? He's 2 years older than you. He's in a position of authority. I could see that you would find that attractive. Like, I don't know. I just don't think that.
Yeah, I mean,
if you were like 12, I'd be like, all right, dude. No, but I don't know. I'm not like, I feel like if we did a poll of all of the women listening right now, we've all been in similar situations like that.
When I was 18, we had a really hot substitute teacher, so I could totally understand where you're coming from, because like at the time it was legal, he was very young, right? But like still, I think when you pair your story with the fact that he wasn't just dating you, but multiple students, clearly he's having a problem, right? And I agree that you are disgusted. I don't think you did anything wrong.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is that like I mean, maybe you could say when somebody's an authority over you, you shouldn't try to date them. But like 18 to 20 years old is like I don't really think that he did anything wrong either necessarily. Like, he was in a position of authority, and like his job said that he shouldn't do it, but like so does every other people that work together. Like, the boss isn't supposed to get with the employees, and they do.
Yeah, but like if a boss got with 4 employees, you're like, okay, you can't find anybody else anywhere. Like, that starts getting into the territory of being an absolute creep.
Oh yeah, I mean, whatever. He's just like, I don't know. I just don't think it's really that big of a deal.
I don't think you did anything wrong, and I understand why you're disgusted. So
yeah, well, because this is the thing. Because now you're older and you're thinking about it with like older people eyes, right? So it's just like, and I'm sitting there like, okay, my daughter's going to be 18 years old in 5 years, and like, do I want, like, no, like, if you ask me, like, no, that's not okay, you know. But
when I was 19, I very briefly dated a man in his early 30s, and at the time, I thought it was great, and now that I'm in my early 30s, upon reflection, I think it's disgusting. But that's a different story. So, like, when you're young,
well,
I thought
it was disgusting because I was like, you're looking at this guy and thinking that he's hot that you're dating, but he's the same exact age as your stepfather.
Well, yeah, but at the time,
and like that, to me, I was just like, that's just like, and then I would say to you, like, could you imagine Gabe dating a 19-year-old? Like, he would absolutely have nothing to do with that. Like, it's because like usually when men are dating women that are that much younger, it's because they're like emotionally arrested development. Like, they just.
Well, that became quite obvious the older I got, and especially because now my husband is the age that guy was when I was dating him at 19 years old. I'm like, this is absolutely disgusting, but at the time I was like, I'm 19 and no older guy's into me. This is great. He like owns a house and blah 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 and has a real job, and like everybody I go to college with sucks and is a loser. But like now that I'm older, that was completely disgusting and inappropriate.
Like when you talk about, I always hear these Hollywood actors get talked about, like Leonardo DiCaprio is a good example, right?
Yeah.
He always has a girlfriend. So he's Gabe's exact age. So he's like 51 or something, right? He's like 50, 51 years old. He always has a girlfriend that's like 20 something and hot and whatever. And I know that maybe some men think that that's envious or something. I don't know. I just look at it as a complete sign of weakness on his part. Like, you know, he'll be with the 20-year-old for a couple years and then she'll mature and get, you know, oh, I want to, you know, get married and have babies and own a house and stuff. And his like bullshit doesn't work on them anymore. So he has to go back down to a 20-year-old that he could like manipulate again.
Well,
and then they get
that's
smart.
what it
and
boils
that's
down to. But then when the younger of the two gets older and then realizes the dynamic is quite off, that's when you're like, wow, I'll justify it as I was 19 years old and being dumb. Like, but
I don't think that's every single situation. Like, I don't think that that's every single situation. I really
no,
don't.
there's special circumstances for sure.
Because I do think that some people are mentally more mature than other people. Like, because I definitely would say, even though I feel like when I was 19 or 20, like I did the dumb shit that I probably wouldn't do today, I still was like, I had a lot of life experience for a person that age. I didn't come from a sheltered life. So I feel like I would always be ready to date somebody that was older. You know what I mean? Or like, there's definitely exceptions, but I just think certain ones, especially the guys that just always have like this hot young person on their arm, you're like, what are they hiding?
Well, I'm just saying, like, if God forbid me and Ricky broke up or something at this current state and then he started dating a 19-year-old at this point, I'd be like, you are a disgusting person. Like, grow up.
I wouldn't even get mad about it. I'd be like, I first I would be absolutely shocked by it, but I also would just be like, okay, you win.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. Like, it just doesn't seem like an upgrade, but
No, totally. All right, next is from Jenna. Listening to you guys talk about physicians and their success rates. I'm an OR nurse, and I used to work with an OBGYN who didn't want to do C-sections to, quote, keep the stats down, and the rate of successful vaginal rates up. This lady would wait as long as possible to call a section, and they would be the most stressful C-sections we have ever done as OR staff. One of my friends, who's also a nurse, had this doc for her first baby, and she tried to talk my friend into delivering a breech baby vaginally after a failed version. Luckily, my friend knew the risks and advocated for herself and had a scheduled C-section. We have also had another mom who ended up laboring for so long with a cord around the neck that the baby ended up stroking during vaginal delivery. This doctor has, quote, officially retired but still comes around the hospital sometimes to do some per diem work. Lucky us. This is unacceptable.
it sucks that so many nurses have to witness stuff like this. And it's not just with OBs, but just like surgeons in general, just doing things that seem not ethical. But like, I mean, I feel like now it's a little bit easier because there's all these agencies you could call and complain to. But I'm sure you guys see so much shit that you're just like, this is not like what I learned in school to be normal practice. We were talking about that a couple years ago. Remember that surgeon that took the wrong organ out of somebody?
Yeah.
And you're just like, there's a whole OR staff there that's like watching this, and it's just like being a person that's, you know, you're an inferior at the hospital, meaning like your position isn't as high as a doctor. You work under a doctor. And trust me, like I've been in arguments with doctors before because sometimes like I just couldn't keep my mouth shut about it. But it is a very unusual position to be in because they're typically the ones that are always listened to. And then, you know, what you say might not hold as much water as what they say. So being in a situation like that and just watching it is tough because you could see that like something like a stroke during labor is obviously it's not always preventable, but when it's preventable, you feel terrible knowing that mom the right thing wasn't done for her because this doctor was like trying to do some numbers or something.
But In the case of like the breech baby, aren't all breech babies considered to be C-sections, or do they
No.
try to do vaginal?
Well, I don't know 100% as far as, I mean, when you have, I know that they try to flip the baby and stuff, and I don't know if that's just like an automatic, because people like, we were talking about didn't know you were pregnant and stuff like that. Like people that don't know they're pregnant, like sometimes the baby's breech and it gets delivered and it's completely fine. So it's not an impossible thing to do, but I don't know, like I've never worked in that situation, so I don't really know what the protocol is.
They gave me some exercise to do at the pelvic floor therapist if I want to like try to move him around, because yesterday he kicked my cervix so hard that it was like seriously the most uncomfortable thing. But this exercise is crazy. Like you have to like lay on the couch and bend your body frontwards down on the floor. It's impossible to do when you have a pregnant belly. But it worked. He moved.
Oh my God.
But it was, like he's stomping on my cervix for like 3 hours, and I'm like, dude, you have to go anywhere else. This is massively uncomfortable for your mother. Okay. All right, last is from Michelle. I'm responding to quote, why do people think blood is blue? I can answer that. As a lab tech and phlebotomy teacher in California, back in the 1800s, the fashion trend was pale skin. To achieve this, royals and people of higher status who could afford this would powder their faces white. What we know now is that powder was lead, and we know how that lead is highly poisonous, and it would make everyone sick. They would turn, quote, blue, and reports would say their blood looked weird. They said it was looking like blue-purple, when really it was probably just dark blood. It's where the term blue bloods for royals came from. Also seeing your veins, because light cannot penetrate your skin. Veins only seem to look blue, but I can assure you that blood is always red. Dark or bright, it's always red. The combo of these two facts ran for generations. Longtime grocery member and day one listener, thanks.
Oh, welcome. Day one listener, huh? I hope we did you proud.
I hope it's getting better.
Like, what
for
was
you.
that? What was the first episode you listened to? I'm curious.
The first episode we recorded took so much longer than we thought. I don't even think we dropped it till 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
It took so long.
Well, look how far we've come.
Hopefully.
All right, guys. We'll see you tomorrow for some more breaking news.
We'll see you tomorrow, but also don't forget, we have our live show coming up next month in April, and we can now announce that Giacalone and Scott Duffey have joined us for lectures.
Yeah, so we love Scott and we love Giacalone, and it's going to be so much fun. My lecture is going to be very much like the stuff we talk about all the time, but really what we do inside of the lab to analyze these cases and to help solve some of these cases. So it's going to be really cool. And the whole point is to raise some money for this forensic research. So when you look at the lectures that you're going to be seeing, it's going to be like a little bit more science-based, but for you guys to all understand. So everyone's welcome. It's especially an awesome opportunity if you have people who are interested in going into the field of forensics, because they have summer internships there. And that center is just really amazing, great friends of ours, and we're just really excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, so tickets for that are available in the description of every episode. And if you are a grocery member, you get a really good discount. I believe it's half off. So the link for those discounted tickets is in the grocery room. So
how do they get it in the grocery room?
So you can go in the grocery room and scroll down to the post where we announce it, or it's on our last YouTube live post where you could access the tickets. Or you could just search new event and the post will come up there as well.
Okay, cool.
All right, guys, we will see you tomorrow. Please head over to Apple or Spotify, leave us a 5-star review, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and send your stories to stories@motherknowsdeath.com.
See you tomorrow. Thank you for listening to Mother Knows Death. As a reminder, my training is as a pathologist assistant. I have a master's level education and specialize in anatomy and pathology education. I am not a doctor, and I have not diagnosed or treated anyone, dead or alive, without the assistance of a licensed medical doctor. This show, my website, and social media accounts are designed to educate and inform people based on my experience working in pathology so they can make healthier decisions regarding their life and well-being. Always remember that science is changing every day, and the opinions expressed in this episode are based on my knowledge of those subjects at the time of publication. If you are having a medical problem, have a medical question, or are having a medical emergency, please contact your physician or visit an urgent care center, emergency room, or hospital. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Mother Knows Death on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks.